After retiring, Mark thought his life would settle into a quiet and predictable routine. The children had grown, work was behind him, and each day seemed almost identical to the one before. Yet in these calm years, fate had an unexpected twist in store. One afternoon, while walking along familiar streets, he noticed Evelyn, a woman who had once been a neighbor to his family. She had changed. There was a new light in her eyes, and her smile seemed capable of brightening the entire world. Memories from the past rushed back, childhood days when they played in the garden, shared secrets, and laughed over trivial things. At that time, he could never have imagined that decades later, life would bring them together again. Evelyn had always had a quiet strength, a way of seeing the world that made ordinary moments feel extraordinary. Mark felt a strange mixture of nostalgia and curiosity as he approached her, unsure if she would even remember him. As they exchanged greetings, the years seemed to dissolve. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, touching on old memories and the lives they had built since. Mark discovered that Evelyn had faced her own share of challenges, losses, heartaches, and dreams deferred, but through it all, she had maintained an inner resilience that now radiated in every word and gesture. He realized that this reunion was not merely a chance encounter. It was an invitation to rediscover life through a perspective he had long forgotten. Walking together through the familiar streets, they talked about the changes in the neighborhood, the people who had come and gone, and the quiet joys they had discovered in their later years. Mark noticed how her laughter had a depth and warmth he had never appreciated as a child. There was a subtle magic in the way they reconnected, in understanding that some bonds can endure the passage of time, waiting for the right moment to reemerge. By the end of the afternoon, Mark felt a spark of something he hadn't experienced in years, sense of possibility, of life still holding surprises, even at a stage when most people believed they had seen it all. Evelyn's presence stirred emotions he had thought were long buried: hope, affection, and the quiet thrill of new beginnings. That day marked the start of a journey neither of them could have predicted, a journey where love, reflection, and second chances intertwined in the most unexpected ways. In the days that followed, Mark found himself thinking about Evelyn more than he had expected. Their encounter had awakened something dormant within him, a longing for connection, for meaningful companionship that went beyond polite conversation or casual acquaintances. He realized that life had given him a rare gift, the chance to rebuild a friendship, perhaps even something more profound, with someone who knew him long before the masks of adulthood were in place. Evelyn too felt the stirrings of a renewed connection. She had spent years focused on family, career, and responsibilities, often putting her own desires aside. Seeing Mark again reminded her of the simpler joys of youth, the laughter, the trust, the shared secrets that required no explanation. Their interactions were tentative at first, filled with polite questions and careful recollections, but gradually they began to share more intimate thoughts and reflections on life. Each conversation unveiled new layers of understanding, a recognition that despite the years and distance, their spirits resonated in a familiar rhythm. Mark invited Evelyn for coffee at a small cafe they had both frequented in the past. Sitting across from each other, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air, they spoke of triumphs and regrets, of moments they wished could be, relived, and decisions they would have approached differently. There was a gentle vulnerability in their words, a willingness to be honest without fear of judgment. It was a delicate dance of emotions, where past experiences and present realities merged, creating a bond that neither could ignore. As the days turned into weeks, they began to meet more often. Walks in the park, quiet lunches, and evening conversations became a cherished routine. Mark noticed that with Evelyn, time seemed to expand. Ordinary moments felt enriched with meaning. He marveled at the depth of her insights, her ability to perceive the world with clarity and compassion. Evelyn, in turn, was drawn to Mark's reflective nature and his gentle humor, which brought lightness to conversations that might otherwise have been tinged with melancholy. It was during one of these walks that Mark realized just how much he had missed having someone to share life with in its simplest form. Evelyn's presence was comforting yet invigorating. She reminded him that life, even in its later stages, could surprise, delight, and heal. The barriers that had formed over decades' hesitations, doubts, and unspoken fears began to fade. What started as a casual reconnection was slowly transforming into a deep emotional intimacy, an unspoken understanding that they were both ready for a second chance at love, however unexpected it might have seemed. As the weeks passed, the bond between Mark and Evelyn deepened. Their conversations became more than reminiscing. They ventured into dreams that had been postponed, the small desires that life's responsibilities had often overshadowed. Mark shared his love for painting, something he had abandoned in his 40s, and Evelyn spoke of her long-held passion for travel, stories of places she had never found the time to visit. Each revelation brought them closer, revealing that their souls had not changed. They had merely weathered life's storms. One chilly autumn evening, as leaves tumbled along the sidewalks, Mark and Evelyn found themselves sitting on a park bench, wrapped in scarves, drinking hot chocolate. The golden light of the setting sun bathed the world in a warm glow, and there was a quiet magic in the air. They spoke less now, simply enjoying the rhythm of each other's presence. Mark reached out, tentatively taking Evelyn's hand in his. It was a small gesture, yet it spoke volumes. She smiled, squeezing his hand gently, the unspoken acknowledgement of a mutual understanding and newfound trust. Mark began to realize that his life had been incomplete, not for lack of friends or family, but for lack of someone who truly saw him. Evelyn offered that rare clarity, reflecting back his own values, his kindness, and the gentle humor he often hid behind a stoic exterior. Evelyn, in turn, recognized in Mark a stability and emotional openness that many had overlooked. He encouraged her to embrace her own desires, to take chances she had long thought were closed off to her. Together, they navigated the delicate dance of learning how to intertwine their lives without rushing, honoring the past while welcoming the present. One afternoon, Evelyn surprised Mark with a gift, a small notebook filled with sketches and notes from her travels. It was a testament to the parts of her life she had kept to herself, the chapters never shared with anyone. Mark was moved. He realized that this gesture was more than a simple gift. It was her way of saying, "I trust you." He promised to share his own forgotten passions with her, starting with his unfinished paintings. Over the next few days, Mark set up a small studio in his apartment, and together they spent hours creating, laughing, and exploring the colors and shapes that reflected their emotions. As the seasons changed, so did their relationship. What had started as cautious friendship evolved into love, a mature, deliberate love that carried the wisdom of past mistakes and the courage of newfound possibilities. They began planning small trips together, visits to art galleries, and simple dinners at home, each moment cherished for its authenticity. Friends and family noticed the change, the glow of contentment on their faces, the ease of laughter that came without pretense. Winter arrived with a quiet grace, blanketing the city in soft snow and bringing a stillness that invited reflection. Mark and Evelyn spent evenings by the fireplace, wrapped in blankets, sipping tea, and sharing stories that had shaped them. The cold outside made the warmth of their companionship even more precious. Evelyn recounted childhood memories, some bittersweet, others filled with laughter. Mark shared tales of missed opportunities and lessons learned too late. In these exchanges, they found a deeper understanding of each other and a growing respect for the resilience that life had demanded from both of them. One evening, Evelyn suggested they attend a winter art exhibit together. The gallery was filled with works that spoke of passion, nostalgia, and the passage of time. As they walked from painting to painting, they discussed what each piece evoked, revealing more of their inner worlds. Mark was struck by how Evelyn's observations reflected her sensitivity, her ability to find beauty even in the most overlooked details. Evelyn, in turn, admired Mark's insight and depth, noticing how he could articulate emotions that many struggled to express. That night, as they walked home through the snow-dusted streets, They felt a profound sense of alignment, as if the universe had conspired to bring two kindred spirits together at the perfect moment. The holiday season approached, and with it came family gatherings and traditions. Mark invited Evelyn to his family's modest holiday dinner. There was initial hesitation, nerves mingling with excitement, but the evening unfolded with warmth and laughter, and Evelyn felt genuinely welcomed. Mark watched her interact with his siblings, her grace and humor shining through, and he felt a deep appreciation for the courage it had taken to step into unfamiliar territory. In return, Evelyn invited Mark to her own family gathering, where he met old friends and relatives, finding himself embraced by her past and the life she had lived before their meeting. Each encounter reinforced the realization that love at this stage of life was not just about companionship, it was about merging histories and creating shared memories without erasing individuality. Through these experiences, their relationship evolved further. They discovered small, meaningful rituals, morning walks, shared breakfasts, quiet evenings of reading side by side. Each act, simple as it seemed, became a thread in the tapestry of their connection. They learned to navigate disagreements with patience, understanding that pride had little place in a love born from maturity. Mistakes were met with forgiveness, and differences were celebrated as opportunities for growth. In this way, Mark and Evelyn cultivated a bond that was both tender and resilient, a love that embraced imperfection and the wisdom of age. As the new year dawned, they made plans for a spring getaway, a modest trip to a coastal town they had both longed to explore. The anticipation brought joy, and even the mundane tasks of daily life seemed brighter when shared. Mark often reflected on how improbable it had seemed a few months ago that he would find such companionship at this stage of life. Yet here he was, grateful for the unexpected, marveling at how the heart could remain open and capable of renewal. Evelyn shared the same sentiments, recognizing that love was not constrained by time or circumstance, but nurtured by presence, patience, and the courage to embrace new beginnings even in the later chapters of life. Spring arrived slowly, bringing with it a sense of renewal and possibility. The days grew longer, sunlight warmed the streets, and flowers began to peek from the thawing earth. Mark and Evelyn embraced the season with an enthusiasm that belied their age, planning weekend outings, picnics, and quiet strolls through parks where blossoms painted the world in delicate pastels. Each shared moment felt like a victory over the years that had once taught them to expect loneliness and caution in matters of the heart. The more time they spent together, the more they discovered about themselves and each other, preferences, quirks, dreams long deferred, and passions rediscovered. One afternoon, Evelyn suggested they visit the Old Town Library, a place filled with history and hidden corners of charm. They wandered through shelves of dusty books, occasionally laughing over titles or reminiscing about stories that had shaped their youth. Mark noticed how her eyes lit up when she discovered a forgotten favorite, and Evelyn was touched by his willingness to explore the quiet joy of her world. In these seemingly mundane moments, love revealed itself in the patience, attentiveness, and appreciation for each small detail. They realized that the bond they were nurturing was not just about companionship. It was about mutual growth, understanding, and the courage to be vulnerable after decades of self-preservation. As their relationship deepened, Evelyn proposed a joint project, planting a small garden together in her backyard. It became a labor of love, an exercise in patience and shared creativity. Each seed they planted symbolized something greater than its physical form, a hope, a dream, a willingness to invest in something that would grow over time. They tilled the soil, arranged flowers and vegetables, and tended the plants with care. The garden, like their love, required attention, nurturing, and a willingness to endure setbacks. The first blooms brought with them a sense of accomplishment and the tangible joy of seeing life flourish under their combined care. During this season, they also faced moments that tested their resilience. Old fears occasionally, resurfaced doubts about whether late in life love could withstand the practicalities of daily life and aging. But each challenge, rather than driving them apart, strengthened their resolve. They learned to communicate openly, to share insecurities without fear, and to support each other through emotional turbulence. Mark became a source of stability for Evelyn, while she brought lightness and humor into moments he might have otherwise met with solemnity. This reciprocal balance became the cornerstone of their relationship, allowing them to navigate life with confidence and tenderness. One weekend they took their first trip together, a short journey to a nearby coastal town renowned for its cliffs and serene beaches. They explored winding streets, sampled local cuisine, and watched sunsets that painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and purple. In these moments, the weight of the past seemed to lift, replaced by a shared presence and the thrill of discovery. Conversations flowed effortlessly, laughter echoed through quiet alleys, and even silences were comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. The trip served as a powerful reminder that adventure, joy, and emotional intimacy were not reserved for youth. They could be cultivated at any stage of life, given openness and courage. Returning home, they found that the ordinary routines of daily life had gained a new vibrancy. Shared breakfasts became cherished rituals. Evening walks through their neighborhood streets brought small joys, and quiet nights of reading or listening to music together became moments of profound connection. Each day, they celebrated the ordinary as extraordinary, learning that love at this stage of life was not defined by grand gestures, but by the consistent, tender, and thoughtful presence they offered one another. The seasons continued to change, but their bond, now firmly rooted, promised a spring of enduring companionship and deep, mutual respect that would carry them forward together. As summer approached, Mark and Evelyn found themselves more deeply intertwined in each other's lives. Their relationship had evolved beyond mere companionship. It had become a partnership built on trust, shared experiences, and the willingness to embrace life fully despite its uncertainties. They spent long afternoons in Evelyn's garden, watering the plants, pruning the flowers, and laughing when the sun's heat turned small tasks into challenges. Each interaction, no matter how mundane, became a testament to the depth of their connection, and they learned to find joy in the simple act of being together. One day, while resting under the shade of a large oak tree, Mark confessed something he had never shared with anyone before. He spoke of regrets, of opportunities missed in youth, and of the fear he had carried for decades that it was too late to truly love again. Evelyn listened with quiet compassion, holding his hand and allowing the words to flow. When he finished, she shared her own fears and regrets, revealing the vulnerabilities that had shaped her choices and her caution in matters of the heart. In that moment, they realized that their openness was not a weakness, but a strength, allowing them to build a love based on honesty, acceptance, and profound empathy. The summer months were filled with small adventures and meaningful rituals. They often took early morning walks along quiet streets, stopping at local cafes for coffee and pastries. They explored small towns, discovering antique shops, local art galleries, and cozy bookstores where they could spend hours immersed in stories and conversation. Each journey, whether near or far, strengthened their bond and reminded them that life still held surprises. Even after decades of routine and familiarity, they marveled at the beauty of the world and the joy of experiencing it together, savoring every moment as if it were both a gift and a victory. Yet their path was not without challenges. Evelyn's health occasionally faltered, and Mark found himself balancing his desire to be supportive with the frustration of witnessing her struggle. There were days when simple tasks became difficult, and moments of fear and uncertainty crept into their otherwise joyful lives. But rather than allowing these obstacles to drive them apart, they faced them as a team, learning patience, resilience, and the importance of emotional presence. Mark discovered the depth of his commitment, realizing that love in later life required not only passion but steadfastness, care, and the courage to confront the inevitabilities of aging together. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they sat on the porch, sipping tea and reflecting on the journey that had brought them together. They spoke of their pasts, acknowledging both triumphs and failures, and of the profound lessons they had learned about love, forgiveness, and the courage to take risks at any stage of life. Evelyn smiled as she recounted small memories, some amusing, some poignant, and Mark responded with gentle humor, their laughter mingling with the evening breeze. In these quiet, shared moments, the intensity of their connection became evident. It was not built on fleeting passion, but on mutual understanding, respect, and the commitment to nurture each other's happiness. Summer continued to pass, bringing longer days and balmy nights filled with laughter, conversation, and shared dreams. They attended local festivals, joined community events, and made friends who became part of their growing circle of support. Through each experience, they discovered that age was not a barrier to joy, love, or meaningful connection. They had learned to embrace the present fully, cherishing each smile, each touch, and each shared glance as a reminder of the profound love they had found in one another. By the end of the season, Mark and Evelyn recognized that they had not only found companionship but a renewed sense of purpose and vitality. Their relationship had become a testament to the possibility of love after 50, to the idea that life could surprise and delight, even when one thought all opportunities had passed. Together, they continued to explore the world, themselves and each other, proving that second chances were not just possible, they could be extraordinary. As autumn approached, the air grew crisp, and the world seemed to slow down, reflecting the quiet rhythm of Mark and Evelyn's lives. They found themselves embracing the season not just as a passage of time, but as a symbol of their own journey together. The changing leaves, with their brilliant reds, oranges, and golds, mirrored the richness of their shared experiences and the depth of emotions they had cultivated. Over the months, they spent weekends walking through parks, collecting fallen leaves, and photographing the beauty around them, savoring the serenity that nature offered and the gentle presence of one another. During one such walk, Evelyn stopped suddenly, pointing to a small, forgotten bench by a pond. "Let's sit here," she said softly. As they settled down, she spoke of her childhood, of the dreams she had nurtured and the obstacles that had shaped her life. Mark listened attentively, feeling privileged to witness her vulnerability and the layers of her personality that had only deepened his admiration. He shared his own stories of moments that had left him questioning his choices, of fears that had haunted him, and of the quiet hope he had carried for love in the later chapters of life. Each revelation strengthened their bond, reinforcing the understanding that their love was grounded in honesty, trust, and shared reflection. One evening, as the sun cast long shadows over the garden, Mark surprised Evelyn with a small gift, a leather-bound journal. "For our memories," he said with a shy smile. Evelyn opened it, touched by the gesture, and began jotting down thoughts, dreams, and moments of gratitude. The journal quickly became a cherished ritual. Each night, they would write entries together, documenting small joys, reflections on their journey, and plans for the future. These writings served not only as a testament to their bond, but as a way to preserve the fleeting beauty of everyday moments that might otherwise be forgotten. Despite the comfort of routine, life continued to present challenges. Evelyn's occasional health struggles reminded them both of the fragility of life and the importance of treasuring every day. Mark, while steadfast and supportive, sometimes wrestled with feelings of helplessness, realizing that love in later years required not just devotion, but patience, empathy, and a willingness to accept life's uncertainties. They learned to navigate these challenges together, finding strength in each other's presence and joy in small victories. The season also brought opportunities for new experiences. They attended local art exhibitions, joined book clubs, and even experimented with cooking new recipes together. Each venture, no matter how minor, became a celebration of life, a chance to explore creativity, and a reminder that their journey together was far from stagnant. Laughter echoed through the kitchen as they fumbled with unfamiliar ingredients, and quiet satisfaction followed as dishes were successfully prepared. These shared experiences became the building blocks of cherished memories, blending the ordinary with the extraordinary. One particularly memorable day, they visited a nearby vineyard. The rolling hills, dotted with grapevines, offered a scenic backdrop for reflection and conversation. They sipped wine under the warm sun, discussing their hopes, the lessons learned from past hardships, and the unexpected joy of finding love later in life. The vineyard, with its abundance and serenity, became a metaphor for their relationship, a cultivation of care, patience, and appreciation that yielded beauty and fulfillment over time. As autumn deepened, Mark and Evelyn felt a profound sense of contentment. They had discovered not just companionship, but a deep, abiding love that nourished their hearts and spirits. The months had taught them that life's richness was not measured solely by youth or achievements, but by the depth of connections, the courage to embrace vulnerability, and the willingness to love fully, regardless of age. Their bond stood as proof that love could flourish at any stage, and that every day offered the possibility of joy, growth, and shared discovery. Winter arrived with its quiet beauty, blanketing the world in soft snow and stillness. Mark and Evelyn welcomed the season with a gentle anticipation, understanding that it, like life itself, was a time for reflection, closeness, and quiet joy. They decorated their home with subtle touches of warmth, candles on windowsills, cozy throws on chairs, and soft music filling the spaces between conversation. The rhythm of their days slowed, but their hearts remained full, nourished by the love they had cultivated and the memories they had shared. One evening, as the first snowflakes drifted lazily outside, they sat by the fire sipping tea. Evelyn turned to Mark, her eyes glimmering with a mixture of contentment and gratitude. "I never imagined life could feel this full at our age," she said softly. Mark reached for her hand, holding it gently but firmly. "Neither did I," he admitted, "but I'm so glad we found each other." In that simple moment, there was an unspoken acknowledgement that love later in life could be just as transformative, just as deep, and just as meaningful as any youthful passion. The holidays brought family and friends into their home, and while their gatherings were smaller than those of years past, they were rich with laughter, stories, and genuine connection. Mark and Evelyn took joy in preparing meals together, decorating the house, and sharing the traditions they had each cherished separately for so long. Their love, once a quiet whisper, now radiated into every corner of their lives, touching others with its warmth and sincerity. Even small gestures, a shared glance, a reassuring touch, a quiet laugh felt monumental, and they recognized the extraordinary within the ordinary. As winter deepened, the couple also found time for introspection. They revisited the journals they had kept, reading entries aloud, laughing at youthful naivety, and marveling at the resilience they had both displayed through the years. Each page reminded them of the lessons learned, that patience cultivated understanding, that vulnerability fostered trust, and that the courage to embrace love later in life brought profound rewards. The journals became more than a record of their journey. They were a testament to the beauty of second chances and the power of connection in the later chapters of life. Amidst the quiet, there were moments of challenge and unexpected health concerns, the occasional clash of opinion, or the simple frustrations that life inevitably presents. Yet these moments no longer threatened their bond. Instead, they served as reminders that true companionship was about navigating life's complexities together. They found that love, when nurtured with empathy, patience, and understanding, could withstand not only time, but also the inevitable trials that accompany aging. One snowy afternoon, Mark and Evelyn took a walk through a nearby park. The world was transformed by ice-laden branches and sparkling frost. They held hands, sharing stories and dreams, speaking freely of hopes for the future and reflections on the past. Each step was deliberate, each glance meaningful, a celebration of the journey they had undertaken together. The beauty of the world mirrored the beauty of their love, a love that had grown stronger, wiser, and more resilient with each passing year. In the final weeks of the year, they celebrated their anniversary quietly, with a simple candlelit dinner and heartfelt words. No grand gestures were needed. Their love itself was the gift. They realized that what they had found was rare, a connection that transcended the ordinary, a partnership built on shared history, respect, and unwavering support. Every day spent together was cherished, every conversation treasured, every silence comforting. As the year drew to a close, Mark and Evelyn felt a profound sense of gratitude. They had discovered that life could be beautifully full at any age, that love could bloom when least expected, and that the second half of life could hold its own extraordinary joys. They embraced the future with quiet confidence, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it side by side, hearts intertwined, finding happiness not in grand adventures, but in the shared rhythm of their days, the warmth of their home, and the unwavering presence of one another. In the end, their story was a testament to the enduring power of love, a reminder that it is never too late to find connection, joy, and fulfillment. And as snow fell softly outside, marking the close of one chapter and the quiet beginning of another, Mark and Evelyn knew that they had found something timeless, a love that would carry them gently into whatever the future held.